ports changed. This really stumped us. When we initially started doing the packet captures, when we were actually using things like HPing and Nmap to send and capture this traffic, we were getting pretty consistent data. 2-3 months later, when we started as we were progressing through developing this web application, we noticed things changed. What's causing this? Is it the networks being saturated? Is it something with my DHCP leases? We weren't sure. So we couldn't really categorize by region or provider. What we discovered was, much as the case when we worked at these ISPs, there was always a cowboy in the engineering group, or I myself was one of these security guys when I worked for Roadrunner and Time Warner that said, let's put this port filtering in. Let's do these filters. So I was the jackass that started a lot of this from the ISP side, and now I'm on the other side, which is why we're giving this presentation. But so it was, this was really different from region to region. Like I said, different tool sets. And I think that's all I had to say about that, actually.
Yeah, I think you need to be careful to generalize and say Comcast does all of this or Time Warner does all of this. And I think you need to understand that most of these cable operating ISPs, it's a regional thing. There's a regional engineering team. And depending on the region, a lot of these companies were bought, acquired, Adelphia, at home. Different companies went with different technology, so they don't always have the same gear. So it is difficult for them to have a consistent filtering policy across the national spectrum. So it will differ depending on region to region. So the internet is changing. We were surprised that ISPs are blocking outbound 21. I mean, come on now. I mean, FTP isn't that dead of a protocol. I still need to get drivers and things on it. And we were surprised. We weren't so surprised about the NetBIOS, but there were some other ports that popped up. We did see things like older peer-to-peer applications like eMule or WinMX that were being blocked. And the question that comes to a lot of people's mind is, well, how can your ISP just change what they constitute service anytime that they want? Well, something that we engineered in the early days was the Internet Access Agreement. And if you read an Internet Access Agreement, somewhere in this Internet Access Agreement, it says, by merely using our service, you agree to the terms inside of the Internet Access Agreement. Sorry. So by using our service, you agree to the terms inside of the Internet Access Agreement, and we may notify you of changes to this Internet Access Agreement at any time just by updating our website. We may elect to email you, we may mail you a letter, but we can do it based on what the website says. Oh, and by the way, by using the Internet, and you do agree to our Internet Access Agreement, which also says you agree to our acceptable usage policy, which, by the way, we can also make changes to at any given time simply by updating the website. So ISPs can and do change the Internet at any time that they want simply by updating that agreement. And by you using their service, you now agree to that new agreement. So that's how it's done. And I brought this little quote out of the Comcast policy because they're the ones receiving the most pressure about this week. And people were asking the question, well, how do you just change the policy on us? And how do you communicate that policy? And this was their response to that. So what is an internet service provider? And what do you expect from your ISP? That's really a good question, and I don't necessarily have the answer to that. Do they only get you on the network, and then it's up to you what you do? Does their service need to include protection? I can remember a time when we first started this where we were definitely afraid of offering any filtering or anti-spam or pop-up block-ups. Because in our mindset, if we were to offer port filtering in the interest of security, like filtering BIOS, then we were providing you a security service. And if our security service failed, then we would be liable for that failure of the service. So that's something that amongst our small round tables as far as, oh, do we really want to go down this road, path of filtering internet because we'll be liable if this protection service no longer works. So the internet can change, and it does. Where did Usenet go, right? A lot of time, it's still there, but a lot of ISPs don't offer access as part of their service offering to Usenet. All right, so we have this changing internet. Ports are being filtered, etc. And no one's really upset about this at this point. It's the battery? All right. Hello? So no one's really that upset about the fact that the internet is changing. There's a few people that are upset, privacy advocates, some internet purists that don't like it when these commercial companies just change the internet on them. Spammers obviously need to adapt. There's a few security testers that don't like these port filtering because they can't test their customers because they can't get a clean ISP to figure out if their clients are vulnerable. And I have to look back at this whole thing and wonder, what did we really accomplish in that early time when we started filtering port 25? And how could things have played out differently if we just butted out? Email, we never really let it get to that state where it was completely broken and useless. And if we didn't just quit applying these small little Band-Aids, who knows, we might have all worked together and decided to change this protocol altogether. Instead, what happened is a lot of our mail activity moved to the web to services like Gmail. So we don't really know the impact that we had when we started filtering the internet then. The fact of the matter and the problem that we're up against now is the internet's changing faster than the oversubscription model for selling bandwidth to consumers. The internet in the early days used to be more of a one-way communication or a two-way communication medium. I have some research data. I want to share it with another scientist. We trade it back and forth. But as more people started getting connections, it became more one-way. We had all these dial-up users and other broadband people. We have content providers and content networks that feed it to us. So that really lends itself well to making your downstream the most important thing to you, because you're trying to get that content. You're not necessarily trying to publish content from your location to other people. And another problem that we have right now is users still don't really want all of their multimedia content in its current packaging. If that was true, we would all just go to iTunes, or we would all just go to the content providers that are giving it to us one way. For some reason, we're not happy with how multimedia is packaged, and we're coming up with other ways, like peer-to-peer networks, to share that. So, the tipping point. You're okay with filtering the internet for the most part, but something changed. Something changed in October of 2007, where the first report of forged reset packets to throttle BitTorrent was released. Thank you. We really don't know when this first happened. Smaller players could have been doing it long before that, but this is where it started really getting some attention, and a lot of attention about this. And we're going to talk more about what happened here and some things that are going on in that space. So, couldn't give this presentation without putting this company's name on the board there. I encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to go to the website and really read this paper. This is a piece that they've created about basically how everyone on the internet is greedy and they're trying to take their fair share. And the only way to restore fairness to the internet is if we have something like this. So please, please read this and put your tinfoil hat on when you read this and really read into what they're saying here. I know this is a security conference, so please be kind to this company. That is a classic .asp file, and it is taking in a parameter, so we don't know what could happen, so let's just stick to that URL right there. All right, so this company was acquired by Sandvine not too long ago, and what I like to do is, we all know that Sandvine's being used somewhere, right, on some ISPs. And we know that they acquired this. So if Sandvine is